Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to Learning Human. I am really, really proud of everyone for making this such an amazing event so far. So hopefully everyone is having a lot of virtual fun and a lot of s'mores. So I'm Vish, and I am the CEO of Sophia. This is a picture of me as a kid because we're at camp and we're sharing. So yes, to preempt your questions, I was the kid with the lasers and the stars and the mushroom cut. That was me. But like everybody here, I am super passionate about education. Before building Sophia, I became one of the top teaching fellows in health and medicine at Khan Academy. And so if any of you work with students in the STEM areas, chances are I know them all indirectly through YouTube. I actually worked on education initiatives at the World Health Organization. I taught undergrad anatomy and biology for several years at a university in Canada. And I'm a resident doctor in emergency medicine, where incidentally, my favorite part of the job is teaching junior medical and nursing students in high stakes emergency conditions. And one of the things that intrigues me every single day is that I am where I am today as a byproduct of the amazing, engaging education that I managed to have. And that's sort of what I'll be talking to you about today. At Sophia, we like to think of learners as pilots of rocket ships, blasting off into space, trying to get to their learning objectives, which is really in service of them trying to do things with their lives that make them happy. But along the way, all sorts of things can happen. Learners can get lost, they can fall off of their trajectories, they can bump into asteroids, and more. And so our jobs as educators and as builders of education tools is really to help learners successfully pilot their rockets, to help students have a good time doing it, and to help them successfully reach their objectives. But I think we all know that today's world has completely changed. Every one of us can feel right now as we sit here on video rather than in-person attendance at this amazing conference. For learners, piloting their rockets has never been more difficult. And for us educators and builders, helping them to navigate and reach success has never been more challenging. So my teammates at Sophia are doing a couple of breakout sessions that are going to be interactive and fun, and there's going to be flashcard games and prizes and take-home presents for everybody. But what I want to talk about in this plenary are some of the critical insights that we're seeing in education today. And I don't just mean in the COVID world, I mean overall in education today. So the first discovery, and I think many of us intuitively know this, is that the student of today is not the same as the student of yesterday. I'll say it again, the student of today is not the same as the student of yesterday. In fact, there's a couple studies out there that demonstrate that the brains of people born in the 80s and beyond are a little bit different to the brains of people who were born before the 80s. Not fundamentally different, of course, otherwise we would kind of have a problem, but different nonetheless. So, of course, this translates through to our students. So, for example, they might consider very different things to be engaging than some of us might. So here's yesterday's student. They were different. They had to go to school to be successful. They did math and writing differently. They had to sit inside classrooms. They got information from these, not the internet, and their entertainment from here. And this is how they talk to their friends. But today's student is a lot different. This is Allie. She's one of the students who works at Sophia. She's a rising senior at Harvard College studying psychology, and she's representative of basically every student her age in the world. And yes, before you ask, that is indeed a bird on her head. If you are lucky enough to ever get to know Allie, that is the most Allie thing possible. In fact, it wouldn't be Allie if there wasn't an animal somewhere in the picture. I think there's probably facial recognition algorithms somewhere out there that won't verify the face as Allie's unless the bird is also there. So back to today's students. Allie and students her age actually don't have to go to school to be successful. So the onus is kind of on us to keep them enrolled. Allie gets her information from here. She can actually learn anywhere on the planet as long as she has this, and she doesn't need to sit in a classroom. And she talks to her friends and is entertained and listens to music with these, which incidentally leads to way too many of these, which is just a personal annoyance of mine, but that's okay. And by the way, these technologies, all the ones above, are super personalized to Ali. They know what music she likes, why, and when she wants to listen to what. They know what she wants to see on Instagram and when she doesn't want to be disturbed. So when she steps back into a school environment, she feels like she's gone way, way back into time. Every single app in Ali's world outside of education leverages the incredible technology that's available and is truly personalized. Which brings me back to our discovery number one. And when I say our discovery, I mean all of us. Collectively, we all know that the student of today is not the same as the student of yesterday. And students like Ali come in two main forms, but they all really have one goal. And it's not student debt. I can tell you that from way too much personal experience with that. And it's not learning just because, even though, of course, we wish it were that way. And it's also not because they love us as teachers, although many do, which just kind of feels nice on the inside. But that's not what it is. It really is to achieve their goals, right? These might be career goals or grade outcome goals. They just want to achieve their goals. And so they come in two forms. And these aren't mutually exclusive, but one or the other is typically how they navigate. Okay. So what's form one? Well, the first type navigates this journey using the higher education system. So they hop into these space blimps and they go through the academic year. Textbooks and didactics and standardized tests, while simultaneously every single day they duck out to visit Planet Internet or the App Store for supplementary or even core learning that the space blimps just don't necessarily know about. And they're not ducking out just because, right? They're actually getting lost. So they weave in and out of the system to visit Planet Internet to fill in gaps or to have things explained in other ways, because as we see here, they are riding the one Sizotron 3000, which was built in 1867 or before. Their education just is not personalized to them. And by the end of each year, we have some students abandoning Blimp for gap years or to take up jobs, or in today's online COVID world, they're just plain logging out. So that's form number one of the modern student. And the second type of student, today's student, are the ones not enrolled in higher education. They're the ones who primarily teach themselves online. So these brave souls go it themselves on the internet. But as you all know, there's a lot out there. They visit Learndacity and SchoolTube and Unikipedia. And sometimes they go to Master Teacher. And okay, this is the first time I'm seeing this. It looks like one of my teammates wrote "you screwed" here. Okay, thank you for doing this right in the middle of my plenary. But it actually, I'm going to pivot this. This actually kind of fits because this is the position that many modern students find themselves in, right? You screwed. Many of them don't actually reach their goals because there's just too much content out there and there's no clear way to navigate it all. The right stuff is out there, but they just can't find it or they can't piece it together in a coherent way that ensures that they reach their goal before rage quitting. And by the way, if you haven't heard the term rage quit, then you are just not living life on the edge, my friends. But so these rage quitters as well, they often don't reach their goals, and that's not good. And so the bottom line is, today's learner needs help. Navigating today's learning world is frustrating, it's confusing, and it's demotivating. Students need educators, people like you all on this call, guides, beacons of light in this dark space. And that's what, again, many of you on this call are or are trying to be. But this brings me to my second discovery. The way we're teaching is perfectly suited to a world that no longer exists. The way that we deliver and teach content used to work for yesterday's student, but it doesn't work for today's student. And related, discovery number 3, the way we've been taught to interact with our students is also suited to a world that no longer exists. Those in-person touch points, office hours, seeing a confused or triumphant look on a student's face, we can't use those interaction moments to guide our teaching anymore. And the methods we're trying to replace them with, email, discussion boards, announcements, they are just not cutting it. We no longer have interactions with our students that give us the information we need to guide them in their learning journey to ensure that they reach their goals. Okay, so what do? Well, when we started building Sophia, we thought, how do we collectively rewrite the playbook of how the world learns, especially as we enter this COVID world? Well, we all want to help students reach their goals, but we're doing things the old way. And we're not doing that because we want to do things the old way or that we don't want to talk to our students in a language that they understand or that we don't want to help get them to their goals. I mean, that's why we're all here, right? Well, there are actually really real problems that stand in our way. Problem number one, we don't know with enough precision where individual students are in their journeys. Remember, learners are out in space trying to navigate and get to their objective. And an educator's job is to help a student navigate that territory, avoid the asteroids, get back on trajectory. But we generally have no idea where the student is in space, or if they're even in space at all. We have them take exams every 2 months, or a few smaller tests that may gauge a fraction of their knowledge or progress. That's not the granular, real-time analysis that we need. Most of the time, we don't even know where a student wants to go or what they want to be. Problem number two, we are so busy making learning content for our unique students, even though students in drove go and teach themselves things on YouTube anyway. YouTube is now the #1 resource used by students for learning purposes. And I bet every single one of you feels me on this. So we as educators are spending time making content that students often are not using, but we don't have the information we need to adjust what we're doing to be more effective. Problem number three, it's hard for us educators to know exactly how to help sometimes when the majority of learning is actually a black box. And if you don't believe me, what are your students doing between the time the learning objectives are laid out at the start of the semester and the final exam time at the end? What are they doing in the middle? Well, they log into the LMS and they hit and run. They log in, they hit download, and then they leave. Why? Well, remember Ali. Students like Ali are using thoughtful, engaging, problem-solving technology all day. Spotify, Pinterest, Amazon, even Snapchat, although it pains me to say that. If their learning material doesn't exist in the place where they love learning, they are going to take it elsewhere. So we actually don't know how students are learning because they aren't learning with us. And finally, problem number four. We don't have ways to collaboratively learn in the COVID world. Students are at home, isolated, lonely, and the synchronous content delivery that's happening via video streaming is not addressing collaborative learning. The majority of the time they spend learning, which by the way is asynchronous from content delivery, is an incredibly isolating and lonely experience. Wow, that is bleak. Thank you, Vish. I can hear you guys. Thank you, Vish, for pretty much ruining everybody's day. And that's actually the end of my session, so I'll see you guys later. Thanks so much. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. There's more. So it's evening for some of us. I promise I'm not trying to get you down. So let's just pull into Imagination Station so we can turn those frowns upside down. So imagine this. Imagine a world where you knew where every student was in their journey. That instead of 100-question multiple choice test every 2 months, there was continuous analysis of students. This analysis would provide insights like where are students in space? Is their trajectory working for them? When are they most engaged and productive? What concepts are they missing? Armed with this information, educators can help students really fast. Students don't have to learn that they're lost the hard, unforgiving way by failing a high-stakes exams, which could change their life trajectory forever. And imagine that based on your students' learning behavior, you were able to make fast curriculum diagnoses. What content is working? What's not? Why? This means that educators can make informed improvements and spend their time wisely. Imagine a world where you knew what content out in the world was most helpful to your students, so you could incorporate it and you could help your students to thrive, or what bad content they were using, so you could nip it in the bud. you would no longer need to spend time recreating content from scratch that your students have already gotten a hold of on the web, because you would already know about all the best content that they were using. Think of all the time you'd save. In fact, we believe so strongly in saving time at Sophia that this presentation will intentionally end early to give you a few minutes of your life back. You are welcome. Imagine if content was automatically suggested to your students based on what they knew or didn't know, based on the continuous analysis, adjusted in real time as they navigate in the learning space. Let's go back to Spotify. Before Spotify, music was rough. We all spent so much time searching the web for good music, but then Spotify came along, analyzed how people listen to music, and now people don't even find music anymore, right? Music finds them. The same thing is possible with learning. Imagine a world where students were in love with, engaged with their learning environment, where the places that held their school content actually helped them to learn it, instead of leaving them on their own to drown, a place that was part of the solution for them instead of part of the problem. And now, imagine that there were learning tools available inside their learning space, right alongside your university's content, that use learning science to help your students learn most effectively. Tools that leverage the incredible technology available in the rest of their lives to solve their pain points. Tools that eliminate the need for them to have 5 apps open to hack together one solution. Your guys' grad schools of education would be so proud. And finally, imagine a world where learning socially was as good online as it can be in person. Imagine a place that has everything that we just envisioned, all built around games with invisible learning, students typing together, seeing where their friends are while learning. Imagine all of this built inside social spaces where students and teachers could do so much of those needed small group sessions and roam around together in virtual places that they know in real life, like this bar at Oxford. So in this radical, imagined world, students get to take advantage of your help as universities and expert educators, but have that combined with the great technology that's possible today, the great technology available in every part of their lives except for education. Well, guess what? You don't have to imagine anymore, because Sophia is reinventing how the world learns. Everything that you just saw is possible today, and we are already helping schools reach that promised land, that imagined world. This is Michelle. She's one of the deans at Monash University, one of the top universities in the world. They actually had their students start university on Sophia this year, and they've had no dropouts for the first time ever. This includes international students, and this is during the pandemic. This is Adie. She's one of the deans at the University of New South Wales. Their students send us messages literally just to talk to us, which is like the company equivalent of "hey, you up." It's a good thing. And this is Julie. She's the executive director of one of Harvard's programs. Look, what I really want people to take away from this is that this is a pivotal time in education history. Who among us has ever seen anything like this? And depending on our actions as companies, as colleges, universities, as educators and administrators, students are going to view every single one of us as either a hero or a villain in this story. So we all need to take a good look at ourselves and ask, who do we want to be? We at Sophia think every one of you can and should be a hero of this story for students around the world. So please feel free to message me or any of my team at any time for a chat, or to talk about the bird on Ali's head, or just to talk about learning. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing many of you at our session tomorrow on data and collaboration. Thank you so much for listening.
Well, thank you. I think that was a fantastic presentation, and we can keep the conversation going, of course, in the Learning Human Mess Hall channel on Slack. I want to thank you so much, Vish, and the whole team for the fantastic presentation and storytelling around the campfire. Felt like I was there in space. And it looks like some questions are coming in. Okay. Can we get Sophia for individual courses?
Yeah, you definitely can. Yeah, happy to talk about that. But the model works for individual courses, whole departments, whole schools. Really is as flexible or granular as you need.